This is the Ask Faleskini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Faleskini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Faleskini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Faleskini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Faleskini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Faleskini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Faleskini.
Thank you, Taylor. As part of my coaching business, I prepare yearly analysis of my clients' needs. This year, I've changed the methodology. I've added some KPIs. Namely, I've added KPIs on some of the soft skills. The results came back as a complete shock to me. It turns out that most issues my clients face are not connected to a lack of resources or knowledge. Issues that my clients face, for the most part, are due to the lack of understanding of which role they have to play and at what time. Even more, some do not understand that they play a role that is demanded of them since they hold a position of influence and often power. And this position often misleads my clients into believing that they don't need to play certain roles since they have a position of power. That was the main reason I've prepared and recorded this episode. Let's get into theory. This time, I will focus more on explaining instead of definitions. In order for our society to function, each individual is expected to perform certain tasks and jobs. The tasks that we are capable of performing will often define the tasks that we are expected to perform as a member of certain society. And that will define our role in this society. Business is also a society. In some places of the world, even the corporate structure is referred to as society instead of a company. We can conclude that in order for our business to function, each individual must play a certain number of roles. Yes, in most cases, business people have to play multiple roles. Certainly more roles than an average student or employee. The CEO plays the dominant role with the employees. This same CEO is much more submissive when he gets the call from the bigger shareholder that can cancel his contract. Let me stress that the role playing I'm referring to here should not be mistaken for a lack of authenticity or even faking. As I've explained before, the role we are playing is defined by our ability to perform certain tasks and jobs and what society expects us to do. Society's main goal should be to appoint the best person for each role or multiple roles. Only when we fully comprehend these underlying principles do we understand that we inevitably all play multiple different roles in business. The more we acknowledge that, the better our understanding of what each role demands of us. And only when we fully understand what certain role demands of us, we can start perfecting our role play and improving our performance. Allow me to wander into metaphysics for a moment. Every role has a frequency. So you can either vibrate with the role in resonance with the same frequency, or you can refuse to adapt to the role and cause major interference by inducting different frequencies than the role demands. And as you're probably familiar with the concept of interference and resonance, you know that resonance can increase the power of certain frequency, and interference usually results in loss of the overall power of vibration. If we integrate power over time, resonance should save energy or even produce some. And interference probably consumes our energy, and we could use this energy somewhere else. To simplify, if you know how to play your role or multiple roles, a lot less energy will be wasted. In comparison to the case where someone refuses to play the role, and as a consequence, there's a huge waste of energy. Let me share with you my experiences with role playing. I was brought up to play leadership roles. I did not understand why this role play is so important for the functioning of societies and businesses. As a teenager, I was rebellious. For a very long time, past my teenager years, I refused to play the roles that were thrusted upon me. The consequences were devastating to my personal life and my businesses. As all people do, I had my own set of excuses for my behavior. I studied a lot of New Age spirituality, and my favorite excuse was I will not perform something or I will not play a certain role since I don't want to amass negative karma. I had to learn the hard way that society functions in a certain way. And if I don't want to be crushed by society, I have to play the role that was entrusted to me. And only then I realized that my understanding of karma was oversimplified, and as a result, my actions were completely opposite to what they should have been. In the book, Thick Face, Black Heart, I learned that karma is not some universal way how to do things right. Karma is inseparably connected to dharma. Before you know your dharma, it is impossible to know whether something is good for your karma or bad. The link to the book on the Amazon is in the description. There's an example in the book I will try to present. The country goes to war. Soldiers hurt and kill people, and they don't get bad karma since their dharma is to kill people. So they are acting according to their role. In the same war, same country sends doctors to heal people that the soldiers of their country have hurt or killed. They make soldiers' work less efficient, but the doctors don't get bad karma for undermining the soldiers' efforts. They both have a mission. They both have their own dharma. Soldiers' dharma is to hurt and kill, and doctors' dharma is to heal. Doctors would only get bad karma if they would kill instead of heal. My biggest failure was that I didn't want to boss people around, even if I was the boss. I was the CEO of the company. I would fail to understand my role. As a consequence, the companies I was involved with had problems because I didn't want to push people too much, and I was under the impression that they have to be self-motivated. Now I know better. The employer's dharma is to get as much out of the employee as possible and pay as little as possible. The employee's dharma is to get as much money as possible for as little work as possible. Of course, there needs to be common sense involved on both sides. But this is the underlying principle or dharma, if you will, for employees and employers. Similar is with the sale. The seller would like to get as much money as possible for services he offers. This is seller's dharma. The buyer would like to pay as little as possible for the services he purchases. This is buyer's dharma. One of the most famous classical authors on this topic is Niccolo Machiavelli. He wrote Il Principe. I think it's translated into English as The Prince. The book addresses most of the problems arising from not understanding the role of a leader. Even more, the book addresses how leadership roles should be accepted by the leaders and how to run society in the most efficient way simply by understanding the roles the leaders play in a nation. Because the book was written at the different times, despite the utility of the mechanism described in the book, Machiavellianism is nowadays often regarded as something negative. Despite the stigma, if you are a business person, I highly recommend you read the book. That is why I've included the link to the book on Amazon in the description. Let's move into the opportunities connected with the roles business people have to play. Let's start with business people themselves. It is important that you identify your personal role. Who are you? Why are you here? It's also important that you identify your company's role. What is your company doing? This will increase your power as an individual or as a company, and as a consequence, help you release a huge amount of additional energy over time. For the employees, it's important to identify your role as an employee in an organization or a company, and then be the best in playing this role. This should help you lower the friction with the company and enable you smooth selling. As for the consultants should help companies, management, and employees identify their roles and then help them play the roles the best they can. Don't forget to help companies and employees understand the differences and, when possible, to find mutually agreeable grounds wherever the issues arise. You will help companies achieving much more with existing resources just by limiting interferences and improving the chances of resonance. This episode was all about raising awareness that every business person plays multiple roles. Often, certain roles demand of business person to move out of a comfort zone. And often, there's a Machiavellian dilemma of being popular with being efficient. Remember, if your dharma is to sell. You shouldn't be concerned what buyer's dharma is. People that are aware that they are playing roles and understand what roles they are expected to play tend to be much more successful, popular, and a lot less under negative stress. From now on, be aware of your role and the roles people around you are playing. And back to Tel.
Thank you, Mr. Faleskini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleskini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleskini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleskini or listen to the Ask Faleskini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.